It's time to reveal my team for Game Week 4, but first a massive congrats to Nadim Norkia for currently leading the way in the Not So Template Mini League with a huge 221 points. If you think you've got what it takes to claim top spots and get future video shoutouts, why not come along and join the league? The code to do so is on the screen. So in Game Week 3 I scored a very respectable 62 points, which meant that I got my first green arrow of the season from 1.2 million to 329k overall rank. But now onto my team selection for this week, and to begin with in goal I've opted for Areola over Onana. I transferred in Areola last week to get my team ready for Game Week 4, so the Hammers keeper has to start for me this week. West Ham have an away fixture against Luton, while Man United face Arsenal away, so I definitely think there's a higher chance of a West Ham clean sheet. At the start of the season we weren't sure whether Areola would be first choice keeper at the club, but he's really impressed with 18 FPL points across the first 3 game weeks. Pervis Estupiñán blanked for the first time this season against West Ham last week, and despite having most of the opportunities, Brighton were well and truly beaten in that match. The Seagulls have played their 3 favourable matches to kick off the season, and now they enter a tough fixture run facing the likes of Newcastle, Man United, Aston Villa, Man City and Liverpool. With this upcoming run of fixtures, it will be interesting to see how many fantasy managers decide to get rid of the Ecuadorian, especially as he's currently owned by 2/3 of the game, so not owning him could really harm your rank. I've decided to go for Ethan Pinnock in place of Saliba in the back 3. Although Man United have looked relatively poor offensively in their opening games, they always possess attacking threat, so I do think it's unlikely that Saliba keeps a clean sheet this week. On the other hand, Pinnock faces a Bournemouth side who have only picked up 1 point out of a possible 9 and scored just twice, and at home I'd expect Brentford to win 0 in this fixture. Pinnock should be fine to start. The only thing to be wary of is what happens to the Bees backline when Ben Mee returns from injury. Ben Chilwell completes the back 3 for Chelsea's home game versus Nottingham Forest. A lot of fantasy managers are eyeing up this fixture as one to target this game week, but I think Forest will give the Blues a really good match, and I expect this encounter to be far tighter than many of us expect. Chilwell once again looked dangerous in the game against Luton. In the end he returned a clean sheet and 6 FPL points. However, it could have been much more, especially when he had a great shooting opportunity and instead decided to square the ball to Sterling. Chelsea have great upcoming fixtures, but I'm still not sure I'm convinced by their performances. Those of us who decided to hold on to Bruno Fernandes were eventually rewarded with a 12-point haul against Forest last week, and I'm personally in no rush to get rid of him. It was a shock to see United 2-0 down just a few minutes into the match against Forest. However, they did manage to claw their way back to a victory, albeit playing against 10 men. With Mason Mount out injured, I thought that Bruno looked more of a threat in that match, and I hope to continue seeing him playing further forward on the pitch. At 8.5 million and on penalties, I think he's a long-term hold. My heart tells me I should transfer out Martinelli for either Sterling or Maddison, but my head's telling me to take a 1-week punt on James Ward-Prowse away against Luton. I'm almost certain that Martinelli is the player in my team to make way this week. He's not nearly as involved in goalmouth action as I'd hoped, and he's taking up a valuable midfielder's spot. Because I have 2 free transfers, I might spend one bringing in Ward-Prowse this week, and then use the 2 frees next week to move him on and restructure the team. If Souček is fit to play, Ward-Prowse will likely play further forward against Luton, and I can personally see him hauling. Like Fernandes, Rashford finally rewarded us with 7 FPL points in the game against Forest, and it was encouraging to see Ten Hag move him out to his favoured left-wing position, which seems to be where he's far more effective and likely to return FPL points. I can see United overloading the midfield in this upcoming fixture against Arsenal, and leaving Rashford hugging the touchline, ready to hit the Gunners on the counter-attack. I do think that United have a decent long-term fixture run, and many of the teams they face in the upcoming weeks are opponents who I can see Rashford performing well against. I mentioned in my last team selection video why I wouldn't make the switch between Saka and Odegaard, despite the latter taking a penalty in the game against Crystal Palace. Not long after that match, there was an article stating that Saka gave Odegaard the penalty during the game, but that he might remain on them for the foreseeable future. so of course it was a positive sign to see Saka take and convert the penalty against Fulham at the weekend. I do think he's the best player in the game at his price point, and I wouldn't at all be surprised to see him get something against Man United on Sunday. Aston Villa absolutely destroyed Burnley on the counter-attack, which was something I suggested might happen in my previous video. One of the players who led that attack was Moussa Diaby, who returned a goal, assist and 12 FPL points. Diaby is proving to be one of the most value for money players in the game. At 6.6 million, he's playing up front with Watkins, in a Villa side always looking to play on the front foot. This game week, Villa face a Liverpool side without the suspended Van Dijk, so I can definitely see this being an end-to-end game, and counter-attacking football should benefit the likes of Diaby. Yes, I'm doubling up on Aston Villa's attack with Watkins. I've honestly been really impressed with what I've seen from Villa so far. And as I mentioned, I can really see them getting a ton of chances against the leaky Liverpool defence. Watkins has now returned 3 assists in 3 games, amounting to 15 FPL points. I had hoped for more, but from what I've seen, I think it's only a matter of time before Watkins registers a double-digit score. Although Villa might not come away with all 3 points against Liverpool, I'm more than happy to hold on to these 2 players who I believe will cause real damage in that game. It was a frustrating match for Erling Haaland last week against Sheffield United. He did manage to get his goal in the end, but that was after missing an array of chances, including his penalty which rebounded out off the post. This week, City face a Fulham side who currently have the highest expected goals against for the 23-24 season, so might this be the week where Haaland returns his first monster haul? This is the last game week before the international break, and although there are captaincy options elsewhere, I don't think it's worth the risk. You could really spiral down the ranks with the Norwegians' ownership likely to be close to 200%. Making the bench this week is Andre Onana, Saliba, Bayer and Cauley Woodrow. So my transfer plans are to bring in Ward-Prowse for a 1-week punt against Luton. After this game week it will be the international break, and I'll have 2 free transfers and 2 million in the bank going into game week 5, which gives me the opportunity to reassess what to do with my team closer to the deadline. So that's the team for game week 4. Leave me a comment down below of what you make of it. Thanks as always for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and best of luck for the upcoming weekend.